Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. The first topic I need to cover is the colonoscopy that I had last week. I figured I could have pushed it deeper. Well, that sounded horrible. I could have pushed it further into the podcast, but then people would be like, well, what's going on with the colonoscopy? So that is where we are going to start. And if you ask anybody about a colonoscopy, and I've had two now, they will probably all tell you the same thing, which is the procedure itself is nothing. It's a walk in the park. You're under anesthesia. I'll talk more about that later. It's the prep that is not at all pleasant. And if you watched last week's podcast, I held up this gallon jug of stuff called New Lightly. Apparently, I don't know if that's a newer version of Go Lightly, which other people have said they've taken. And a number of you said there are far better cleansing methods. Miralax and Gatorade, or I guess there's now just a single pill that you can take. But I had the New Lightly. And it didn't taste especially bad. It was kind of like, Gatorade, a little salty, a little citrusy. And the light part it's L-Y-T-E, like electrolyte. It's not like it's light on your system or anything, because it isn't. In fact, I think the NU in New Lightly doesn't mean like new, like, hey, it's a new product. I think it's short for nuclear. Because even though the prep instructions said you will have, I think they used the word explosive, diarrhea, that was sort of selling it short. This is some powerful stuff. If Oppenheimer created a cleansing beverage, it would have been this. I am become death, destroyer of toilets. So I decided what I would do is actually fast a couple days prior to the cleansing. The instructions, the prep instructions said go on a liquid fast the day of the cleansing. And I started about a day and a half earlier. So, 2.5 full days of fasting prior to the procedure, 1.5 days, close to 2 days prior to the cleansing operation. And I would highly recommend that process to anybody that needs to have a colonoscopy, because the first movement that you have is kind of the flush out the system sort of thing. Everyone after that for me was really kind of just like power washing out the plumbing. But that first one, that's the one, at least for me, that cleared everything out. And I think that I only had one like that because I had been doing the fasting already. That said, even that first one, I guess I would compare it to when you watch football practice, American football, the NFL, and they've got those machines that shoot out the footballs to receivers. They got the two wheels that are spinning, and you put the football in and it goes boom, like that. That's pretty much what the experience was like in my body. So went through the whole cleansing thing. Had to get up at 2 a.m. of the day of the procedure to do round 2 of the cleansing. That wasn't a whole lot of fun. Just in general, the cleansing prep work, not awesome. The procedure itself, well, actually, before we get into the procedure, my wife Terry is a surgical nurse. She's been doing this for over 30 years. I guess I kind of just maybe gave away her age a little bit there. But what happens every time I have surgery is she comes along with me, naturally, but then she gets in a conversation with the nurses. They'll be talking about other doctors or things like that. And I just basically feel like a fifth wheel. I'm just like in bed. I'm like, hey, what about me? This is my day. This is my special time. Why is no one paying attention to me? So there was that. That was sort of the usual thing. Also, Terry is very particular about certain things. So she will go and adjust what someone else has done. Like if I make the bed, for example, I'll make the bed and think, wow, I'm pretty awesome husband here. I made the bed. And then she'll come and sort of remake it because I didn't do it right. She's also like that at the hospital. So the nurse put on the blood pressure cuff that I wear in surgery, and then Terry adjusted it. She didn't do it in front of the nurse, which, that would have been kind of borderline rude. But, she waited and she's like, no, you got to put the cuff on like this because of this and this. So cool, she did that. But then she was talking to the nurses. The nurse was trying to run the IV. And at this point, I'm about ready to step in and say, can we just let her focus on the IV? Because, now it's one thing, you're talking when she's charting or, taking my blood pressure or putting the pads, little electrode pads on me. But when someone's sticking a needle in me, I want their concentration fully on that. And Terry was both sort of talking to her, but you could also tell that she was kind of like, like, that's not how I would do it. So I get this every time we go. I love my wife. I absolutely love her, and I'm glad to have an advocate like that with me whenever I'm having surgery, because she knows what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know if I get any sort of special treatment, but it did make me a little bit anxious, the way she was kind of squirming around while I was getting the IV. Anyhow, then they wheel me in to surgery, and I love anesthesia. I mean, I just love it. I love that it just knocks me out instantly. I've had a lifetime history with insomnia, and it used to be, my problem used to be falling asleep. It would take me a couple of hours to fall asleep. So the notion of literally just flipping a switch and I'm out, I think that's super cool. It went a little like this. The anesthesiologist put the syringe into my IV, and he said, I like to go slowly with this because it can burn a little bit. And I said, I'm feeling it already. My tongue's starting to tick out. And then I wake up in bed like nothing had ever happened. And the whole day, I just felt super chill, just super mellow. It is the most sort of anxiety-free, super chill I think I've ever been. I love that sensation. So if it weren't for the prep work, I would have colonoscopies like maybe once a week just for that anesthesia. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Anesthesia. Now, in terms of the procedure itself, they did find a polyp, 4 millimeters. I don't know if that's big or if that's small or whatever. The doc said that it looked pre-cancerous, but it's got to go to the lab, and I'll find out probably Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. If it's a clean bill of health, then he said I don't have to come back for another 10 years. But otherwise, it could be 5 years. We'll see. So that is the colonoscopy story. Hopefully I'll be back next week. Well, I will be back next week, but hopefully it is with good news about the lab results. In other good news, I've talked in the past about how great it would be to get a sponsor for the channel or just the podcasts or something, some way to make this whole effort a little bit more financially viable. But I've got fairly strict standards. They would have to be a company that I believe in, that I'm a customer of, and and that it aligns with this channel. So finally, we're going to have one, and it's porkrinds.com. So once a month during the podcast, I'll just do like a 30-second, this podcast is brought to you by porkrinds.com, and then, show a little footage, me eating some pork rinds, or Colton, or somebody doing something with some pork rinds or one of their products. I want to try and make it entertaining. I don't want it to feel like a commercial, but I'm pretty happy about that. Now, if I could just get, I don't know, like Crowd Cow or Rectech or Blackstone, one of those companies to sponsor, the other episodes, that would be great. But anyhow, look for that starting in October, just once a month, 30 seconds, not a big deal. Now, based on some of the comments that I've seen on the channel recently, I think there may be some new viewers. So this is going to be a brief section sort of bringing people up to speed on the channel. Because one of the comments that I got specifically was on the podcast last week, which was something to the effect of blah, 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 who cares about your life, talk keto. So what I thought about when I read that comment was Alton Brown, who used to have a podcast. I don't know if he does anymore, but I was a very loyal listener to his podcast. And yes, Alton Brown is about cooking, but the podcast itself was a fraction of it was about cooking. Other bits, he talked about books that he's read or is reading. He'll talk about movies, talk about music, talk about what's going on in his life, talk about his daughter. And if it was just about cooking, I don't know that I would find it all that interesting, because it's a lot more interesting, at least for me, to get to know someone and see, is the personality that they present on video, is it the same as who they are off camera? And that's sort of one of the reasons why I do this podcast. It's a chance for those of you who perhaps have a greater interest in who I am outside of cooking to share in that. And we have this sort of community together where we talk. You in the comments, me on the video, sometimes me in the comments as well. But I thought about that, and that's what this is. Sort of the same thing for the podcast. I try and keep most of the stuff either related to keto or nutrition or health, but I'm going to talk about me sometimes, things that are going on in my life, because you're sort of family to me in a way, extended family, and I feel comfortable talking to you about these things. The other two main video types that I do on Wednesdays is generally a product review, and Fridays generally a cooking review. Now there are a few other video types smattered in here and there. Resistant starch test videos. For a while I'd been doing some 30-day challenges. I don't know if I'll return to that or not. It seems to me that would fit better on my other channel, Lean Body Mind, which I really need to create some content for again. What else have I done? I think those are sort of the... Oh, and then, like pragmatic keto. Sometimes I will do a full sort of equivalent of a podcast on one topic, like keto products and prices, for example. So that brings me back to product reviews. Why do I do product reviews? I do them, I generally don't buy a lot of keto products myself. I would prefer to cook. I like to cook. That's my thing. I'm a foodie. But sometimes I do appreciate the convenience of having something that's already made, especially if it's something that maybe I wouldn't make myself, like keto bars or something like that, or tortilla chips. But sometimes I'll get comments on that like, oh, too expensive. Oh yes, most keto products are too expensive. In which case, if you feel that way, I would encourage you to watch that video about keto products and prices. I'll put it in the end card. But I'll get, you should cook your own food. You should make all your own food. And generally, I think that's pretty accurate if you like making your own food. Some people don't. Some people don't have the time or the aptitude to do that. And for them, the difference between being able to maintain a keto lifestyle and not maintain a keto lifestyle is the availability of keto products. So to me, the reviews are more of a public service. It's, I'll try these out for you. I'll tell you if they're any good. I'll tell you if they spike my glucose. And then you can make the decision whether or not you want to spend your hard-earned money on it. Then, like I said, Fridays cooking videos. And it's interesting because I'll get the comments on the review videos that say you should make all your own food. And then on Fridays when I do cooking videos, I'll get comments like, too much work. Okay, if you don't like cooking, you don't like cooking. That's fine. I enjoy cooking. And sometimes making something good is a little bit of work. But that's basically the schedule. So if you are new, now you know that's the schedule. Now in terms of cooking videos, sometimes I will query, especially my paid channel members, I'll ask them, do you have such and such of an ingredient in your pantry? Or do you own such and such a gadget? Do you have an air fryer? Do you have a smoker? Whatever. And I think sometimes that leads people to believe that a recipe video is pending or is going to be released very soon that uses that ingredient or that gadget. That's not always the case. Oftentimes I'm asking while the idea is still germinating in my brain, like, I wonder if I could do this with a dehydrator. Well, first let me ask, I'll query a sample of my viewers, the paid channel members, do you guys have a dehydrator? And if I get back 70% of the people say, yes, I do, then that's an indication to me that, okay, this, maybe this is a representative sample and I will proceed with this recipe idea. So just mainly be aware that sometimes when I say I'm working on something or I ask all of you if you've got an ingredient or gadget, that doesn't mean that you should run right out and buy that ingredient or gadget. It means I've got an idea and I'm working on it and I don't know when it will come out. To that end, I get a lot of questions about keto baking, and I've really kind of moved away from that. To me, for a couple reasons. One, I love baking pre-keto because it's predictable. Keto ingredients, it's, to make a loaf of bread, look at all the ingredients it takes. To make a loaf of non-keto bread, like a nice rustic bowl of bread, it's 4 ingredients. It's flour, water, salt, and yeast. done, delicious bread. So I've gotten frustrated with the whole keto baking. I don't have the aptitude or perseverance of someone like Indigo Neely or Carolyn Ketchum or Alicia at Keto Upgrade. I know there's a ton of different bakers out there, but those are just the ones that all come to the top of mind for me. That said, I will be doing some keto baking experiments this autumn. To me, the one thing I still have yet to see in the keto realm that I want to create, or I hope someone else creates. It doesn't matter to me if I'm the one that comes up with it or somebody else does. I just want an English muffin. I want to be able to make a full-out keto Eggs Benedict. And I've made some pretty respectable progress on that. It's very iterative and time-consuming. The other thing that I'm curious about, because I've done all these keto bread, like commercial bread tests, and have found some cause me inflammation, some don't. And I know soybean oil tends to be something that causes me inflammation. Mostly when it's soybean oil, I tend to feel it in my knees and in my knuckles. But I also feel that something in the wheat products or wheat byproducts that are in some of these breads is also affecting me. Because when I eat those, I get it mostly in the elbows, predominantly left elbow. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the wheat fiber or resistant wheat starch or whatever. And I want to kind of isolate that through some baking experiments to figure out what it is specifically that affects me. And it's my hope that out of that, maybe I come up with some interesting discoveries that I can share with all of you, and fingers crossed, an English muffin. Before I end the podcast, just two other things to kind of wrap up. One is a topic I've discussed before, which is shorts, so we'll talk about that first. I've kind of expressed my disinterest in doing shorts, and the only reason I would do short form videos is if you could then click on it and it would take you to the longer form recipe video. But apparently that functionality, putting links either within the video or in the video description or in the video comments, is being disabled by YouTube because of some scammers or spammers or something like that. That's the only reason I'd want to do it, and now they're taking that away. So pretty good chance you're not going to see any shorts on this channel unless they're the ones I'm wearing. Another quick question I got from a viewer that I want to respond to is, will I be doing the whole grow out my beard for Movember thing? So November is Men's Health Awareness Month here in the United States, and I think it was 2 years ago I grew out my beard. And I think I'm done. I think I'm done with the beard. Honestly, I got enough gray in my hair here, and when I grow a beard, it's pretty much all gray. I don't mind the gray in my hair. I think I've earned that. And, I think though I still have a fairly youthful looking face, not a whole lot of wear and tear on the face or wrinkles. But when I grow a beard, yeah, I age by about 15 years. I don't think it's a good look on me. So I will not be doing the beard for Movember. But that is going to be it for this video. I had mentioned that I would put up the video on keto products and prices. I'll put that right over here. And then maybe I'll throw some other episode of Pragmatic Keto down below. As always, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.